This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is for now one of the newest members of Congress. But there is a move growing in strength trying to expel her from Congress even though she's only been there for less than a month. Why is that happening, and is it really warranted? Let's find out in this video. To begin with, if you're not really familiar with who she is, she's a pretty proud QAnon supporter. And that is the QAnon conspiracy theory, where they allege that there are all sorts of evils going on in Washington, D.C. And don't get me wrong, there certainly are, but not to the extent that QAnon believes it is happening. I don't believe, for example, that Hillary Clinton is murdering children and drinking their blood. That's kind of way too out there. Nor do I believe, as Marjorie Taylor seems to, that the Sandy Hook and Parkland shootings were just false flags or staged events. These are beliefs that someone like Alex Jones has. And I don't really want an Alex Jones type to be in Congress. So already we're looking at this and kind of maybe seeing where this push to expel her is coming from. Now, I still don't think I necessarily agree with it, but I'll get to that in a little bit. In addition to these things, CNN has evidence showing that she kind of indicated support for executing certain Democrats back in 2018 and 2019, which is, again, pretty horrible. For example, this image shows that Marjorie Taylor Greene liked a post saying a bullet to the head would be quicker than trying to remove Nancy Pelosi in any legal way. In addition, she liked other comments talking about executing FBI agents who she thought were part of the deep state. Now, I don't want to delve too deep into this without saying that liking a comment is not necessarily saying you endorse it or are going to follow through with it. But again, it's still not great. If I see a comment that is completely out there, sometimes it even happens on this YouTube channel, I don't like it just to like it. Maybe I'll ignore it. Occasionally I'll remove it if it's really, really bad, but that's pretty rare. So she shouldn't have liked these comments at all. Furthermore, back in 2018, there was someone who commented and said, "Now do we get to hang them?" Meaning Obama and Hillary Clinton. Her response was, quote, "Stage is being set, players are being put in place, we must be patient. This must be done perfectly, or liberal judges would let them off." Now, she didn't explicitly say, let's go ahead and execute them, but she also didn't say, no, we're not going to do that, and shut it down there. She kind of let it go forward and winked and nodded at the possibility. She has also somewhat hypothesized that the California wildfires back in 2018 were started by lasers so that a Jewish bank could make more money, or something like that. It's a little bit confusing, but bear with me. In a post that's now been deleted, as most of these have been, Greene implied that this wealthy Jewish banking family was profiting from the wildfires in California, and that people have said they saw what looked like lasers or blue beams of light causing the fires in pictures and videos. So this post kind of seems to imply that Jewish bankers were somehow using lasers to start wildfires and make money, which caused Jewish space lasers to trend on Twitter because Twitter is, well, basically Twitter. Most of the time, Twitter is a cesspool of all that is evil and horrible. But sometimes they get kind of funny, and this was an instance of that. Jewish space lasers started the California wildfires. That seems to be something that Marjorie Taylor Greene would kind of agree with, based on her own comments. Now, because of all of these things, because she seemed to have been indicating that it's okay to assassinate or execute members of Congress and fellow politicians, Democrats are trying to expel her from Congress, and leaders of the GOP are planning to talk to her and find out what the heck is going on. Now, I recognize that all of the sources I've used today have been like CNN and sources on the left that would have a vested interest in seeing a Republican GOP member kicked out of Congress. But before you just disregard all of this out of hand, consider the fact that when asked about this on her personal Twitter account, she did not deny that these things had happened, but instead tried to blame other people, saying that many people have run her Facebook page. So she's essentially implying that it's possible that she didn't like these things, but someone else running her page did on her behalf, which I suppose is a possibility and we can't prove or disprove. But if you're having other people run your Facebook page, well, you kind of need to oversee what they're doing. And in a sense, you're responsible for what they post because they're doing it in your name. If I were to let someone else make a video on my own channel, it couldn't be a video about whatever the heck because I'm responsible for it. Now, in spite of all of these things, I still don't think I support expelling her from Congress. If she were to resign, that's one thing, but that seems unlikely. So why do I think she shouldn't be expelled? To answer that, let me pivot to something that AOC has said very recently about Ted Cruz, where she essentially said that he tried to kill her. And no, not essentially. She literally said that. When talking about the Capitol Hill riots, AOC just the other day tweeted at Ted Cruz saying that, quote, "You almost had me murdered 3 weeks ago." And, quote, "happy to work with almost any GOP that aren't trying to get me killed." Now, the reason I think this is relevant is because Democrats want to expel Greene based on comments that imply she's okay with members of Congress and other politicians being executed and killed, which again is terrible, and even though they're implied, they shouldn't exist. She shouldn't have done any of that. But here we have AOC saying explicitly that Ted Cruz literally tried to murder her. So if Greene is going to be expelled based on implications, then Cruz would likely have to be expelled because, in AOC's mind at least, he tried to kill her. Similarly, Senator Josh Howley would also have to be expelled because, just like Ted Cruz, he voted against accepting the Electoral College vote back on January 6th. So if this is the precedent that we're going to set, that implications of violence against your fellow congressman can get you expelled from Congress, well, it doesn't really stop anywhere. There's no limiting principle here. And yes, again, I recognize that what she did was horrible, and I personally wouldn't vote for her. If she were in my district, there is no way 2 years from now, if she runs again, I would vote for her because it's pretty horrible stuff. But at the same time, I don't know if it necessarily warrants expulsion. Instead, what's more likely to happen, and I think what is more warranted, is that she will be censured by Congress and stripped of all of her committee seats, which is very similar to what happened to Steve King 2 years ago. So there's a precedent for it. Now, if you're wondering why I made a video focused purely on criticizing someone who I probably agree with politically, at least for the most part, aside from the QAnon stuff, as opposed to criticizing someone like AOC for these horrendous comments that she made about Ted Cruz, well, it's because, as someone pointed out on a recent video of mine, conservative shows like this tend to not criticize conservatives when they say and do stupid things. Stupid things like this. And I don't want to be that type of show. So if you're looking for a show who will only criticize Democrats or who will never criticize conservatives, well, that's not me, and I apologize for that. Though I didn't do it very often, when Trump did things that were egregiously stupid and when he tweeted about things that made absolutely no sense, I criticized him for that too. So if that's the type of show you're looking for, make sure you subscribe. With that being said, I will probably still tend to focus more on the Democrats because I disagree with them politically, and let's be honest, AOC is a treasure trove of stupidity. But I also need to criticize, at least occasionally, the conservatives who are similarly stupid. So there we go. That's this video, and let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think she should be expelled? Do you think she should be censured? What are your thoughts? As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.